Ghostzy is a popular Twitch streamer that has gained a lot of attention recently and has brought even more popularity to the game that he plays, Rainbow Six Siege. Now, Rainbow Six Siege is a tactical FPS that came out all the way back in December of 2015. I've been seeing all over the place that people are calling Rainbow Six Siege in 2023 the hardest FPS to play. Now, I know what you're thinking. Is this true? A Ubisoft game being the hardest FPS in 2023? So today we're gonna dive deep into my top 5 picks for the hardest FPS games in 2023. To make this work, I came up with a super high IQ rating system. Games will be rated in these 4 categories: beginner friendly, gameplay mechanics, skill gap, and level design. The lower the end total, the better. Alright, in the number 5 spot, we have Overwatch 2. Overwatch 2 is a sequel to Overwatch, or at least that's what Blizzard Game wants you to believe. Pretty much the original game Overwatch with just better graphics and the same blaring issues. Overwatch came out in May of 2016 and was one of the biggest games released. Quick little did you know, popular streamers XQC and Tim the Tatman actually started their streaming careers with Overwatch. XQC actually being a professional Overwatch player, Tim the Tatman not so much.
Never mind. Why are you in Why is the Roadhog flanking everyone? He's running by himself! Roadhog on the flank.
But Overwatch 2 has 38 playable heroes and 36 maps. Yeah, that's a lot of learning to do. The good news is with how fast the games are and simple gameplay mechanics, it's actually not that hard to get into. For example, Widowmaker is a DPS character. She basically just stands still in the very back and hard scopes the entire game, while Cassidy gets up in your face and ninja rolls while using cover to shoot. I personally started with Overwatch 1 about 2 weeks before Overwatch 2 came out in 2022, and I learned all the maps and all the characters within about 100 hours. And to me, I would consider that beginner friendly. At least for 38 different characters to learn, it's really not that bad. Every hero has an in-game tutorial, and with the 2 type of game modes that Overwatch has, it's very easy to die and respawn and just learn from your mistakes. Ranked in Overwatch 2 is a different story. I found it personally to be pretty hard if you don't have a 5 stack. Solo queuing for ranked is a very bad experience. With there being 36 maps, they're not actually that complicated to learn. For the most part, you're just following the objective, staying in one spot, controlling a zone. Also, every single hero has a strong counter. And once you start putting some hours into Overwatch 2, you won't find it that hard to find what those counters are. The only really difficult thing to learn in Overwatch 2 is that Moira is not a DPS main, but a healer. Overwatch 2 isn't that brutal of a game, because like I said, if you die, you can just respawn. With how quick the games are, you start learning pretty fast. So with that being said, beginner friendly is going to be an 8 out of 10. Gameplay mechanics ranked a 7 out of 10. Skill gap being a 5 out of 10. And the level design being a 9 out of 10. For a total of 29 out of 40. In the number 4 spot, this was almost a coin toss with the number 3 spot as well, but I decided to put Apex Legends in the number 4 spot. Now, Apex came out swinging when it released and took the gaming community by storm. It was a breath of fresh air to the typical Call of Duty player or Fortnite player. They had some hiccups when they launched, but in 2023, it is one of the most watched games on Twitch. But how beginner friendly is it? I would argue pretty friendly because of the amount of in-game tutorials there are, but in total they have about 24 playable heroes, 5 main BR maps at the time of recording. Do you need to know every nook and cranny of these 5 maps? No, not really. You might find yourself lost sometimes, but thankfully they do have a mini-map. Gunplay is also nothing special here. Some guns just have more recoil than others, but once again, it's not too hard to find out those metas once you start playing. With all that being said, there is a pretty large skill gap here for Apex Legends. This is because what I like to call the 9-to-5ers. They like to hop on after work to enjoy some games, and they get put against Jake and his squad who've been playing ranked all day, snorting lines of G Fuel and popping addies. Speaking of ranked for Apex is an entirely different animal. And here's where I'd say the game gets pretty freaking hard. It is an actual achievement to reach max rank in Apex, where somewhere like Overwatch, I wouldn't say it's that big of a deal. With all that being said, my rankings for Apex Legends are beginner friendly, getting a 7 out of 10, gameplay mechanics a 6 out of 10, skill gap a 4 out of 10, and level design 8 out of 10, for a total of 25 out of 40. Next up at number 3, I have CSGO/CS2. CSGO is a tactical FPS round-based game. It's old as hell. Like, I'm only 424 days older than the original CSGO. And I'm 24, man. This, funny enough, being the oldest game on the list, is also the most popular. Counter-Strike peaked at 1.8 million concurrent players 6 months ago in 2023, and that's just wild to think about. But how hard is it? It's pretty difficult. I mean, people can have up to 24 years of experience with the gameplay mechanics and knowledge of the game and map, maps, and that's just absolutely mind-blowing to think about. The other hard part about Counter-Strike is trying not to spend money on keys to try to get a pretty digital knife that you can buy a mansion with. Is it beginner friendly? Yes and no. There's definitely modes that you can play for casual play and to learn, but they won't teach you the most important thing about this game, the peaks and the crosshair placement. The skill gap is obviously huge in this game because of the amount of time people put in. Like sub 10,000 hours for CSGO is nothing. People don't just want to be good at this game, they want to be the greatest of all time. The rankings I gave CS2 is beginner friendly, a 6 out of 10, gameplay mechanics, a 5 out of 10, skill gap, 3 out of 10, and level design, 8 out of 10, for a total of 22 out of 40. Number 2, Rainbow Six Siege. We already gave a brief intro for Rainbow Six Siege at the beginning of the video, so we'll just get right into it. They have a whopping 68 total operators and 24 different maps. Each map having very specific peaks and strats. Like there's hundreds of peaks and strats for each map in Rainbow Six, man. Game sense is also huge in this game, and even the smallest audio cues are game changing. The overall gunplay is pretty simple, meaning if you know how to point and click, you're eventually gonna get some kills in R6. Mostly everything you can wallbang through, and headshots matter. Now learning each operator will take a lot of time, mainly because the standard game doesn't even unlock all the operators for you. You either need to win and use renown to unlock characters very slowly, or pay for them with real money. This is a game I recently got into because of all the hype Ghostzy created for it. Rainbow Six has always been a pretty solid game, but I never really gave it the time of day. But it is a very solid tactical shooter. I'm pretty new at it. I've recently only put 100 hours into the game total, but I feel like I can compete with majority of players in tactical standard mode. Anything past Emerald 1 or Diamond is where I start to get smoked. But overall, a really fun game. The rankings for beginner friendly are 5 out of 10, gameplay mechanics 7 out of 10, skill gap 5 out of 10, and level design a 2 out of 10, bringing the total to 19 out of 40. Before we get into the number 1 spot, if you guys could drop a sub if you've enjoyed the video so far, I really appreciate it. But without further ado, the hardest FPS game in 2023 is Escape from Tarkov. EFT is a tactical looter shooter made by BSG, and this is the only game that I've ever played that made me realize that I'm a masochist. EFT is the least beginner friendly FPS game you could ever try. Want to know what to bring into a raid? Want to know what the difference between a PMC and a scav is? Want to know how to extract? Want to know where to extract? Do you want to know anything? The game doesn't really tell you how. No crosshairs, no map, no bullet counters, no nothing. I had someone teach me that knew how to play the game beforehand, and it was still very hard to learn. I can't imagine going in solo not knowing anything about the game. This is the closest thing to being in the military you can get without actually being in the military and without the benefits. I'm pretty sure the VA accepts Escape from Tarkov mental abuse compensation. But anyway, how do you learn? You die. A lot. And everything you bring in with you is lost if you don't extract. A true survival of the fittest experience. There's hundreds of individual gun attachments, thousands of in-game lootable items, all with different prices, and 8 extremely detailed maps. Remember when I said you didn't need to learn every nook and cranny of Apex Legends maps? Well, in Tarkov you do. Every inch of a Tarkov map is important. You need to know where to extract, you need to know the loot spawns. Questing in Tarkov does help with this. It helps you learn the maps because it makes you go certain places you need to be. But in all honesty, you're going to be spending a lot more time on YouTube than you thought, because it gives you the quest but doesn't exactly tell you where on the map you need to go. This is where the skill gap comes in. And because Escape from Tarkov came out in 2016 and the quests have all been the same every single wipe. By the way, the game wipes about every 6 months. That means all your progress, all your weapons, everything goes, and everyone starts from scratch, even your quests. But with Tarkov being out since 2016, people really take advantage of newbies by either ratting in a corner waiting for someone to pick up their quest item where they have to go, or just having map control, knowing where people spawn and where people are going to rotate. The gunplay and gameplay mechanics are also very in-depth. EFT is the only game that I know that has inertia added to it, meaning even the movement is very hard to learn. It'll feel very off when you first start to play. Every gun has very realistic recoil, and gun sway is a very big thing in this game. So you can't expect to hop on and just be very good at shooting things, because it's not that easy to shoot. EFT has given me some of the most genuine fun I've ever had on a shooter. The adrenaline you get when you find a LEDX or GPU, or hell, even a cool gun, is amazing. Having the constant fear of one bullet can ruin your entire game is both exciting and terrifying. And that's why, in my opinion, Escape from Tarkov is the hardest FPS in 2023. Final ratings for Escape from Tarkov are beginner friendly, a 1 out of 10, being generous there. Gameplay mechanics, a 3 out of 10. Skill gap, 3 out of 10. and level design a 2 out of 10, bringing the total to 9 out of 40. If you stuck to the end, I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. Again, don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and check the description for the link to my stream where I play a lot of these games that I mentioned in today's video. And I hope to see you guys in the next video.